Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of If the Phrase Fits. On this show, I look at some great idioms, proverbs, slangs, and verbal phrases and talk about their meanings. I also look into their origins, which is the really interesting part. Let's start with a very common idiom about going to bed. Hit the sack. Or you can also say hit the hay, as in, oh, I'm really tired. I think I'll hit the hay, or hit the sack. So, why do we say hit the sack or hit the hay to mean go to bed? Well, in this, the origin seems pretty clear, which is not always the case, as you'll see later. This expression started in the U.S. likely in the late 19th century or possibly the early part of the 20th century. At that time, people didn't have comfy mattresses like we do today. Well, that's a bit squeaky. Instead, people would sleep on sacks filled with straw or hay. Now, that explains the sack and the hay parts. But what about hit, as in hit the sack? One possible explanation I've read is that people used to hit the sacks to make them more comfortable and to try to get rid of any insects in them. Yuck! Anyway, that's something to think about the next time you hit the sack. Speaking of sacks, here's another idiom with the word sack. The idiom is get the sack. It's used to talk about someone getting fired or laid off. This expression dates back much earlier than hit the sack. It apparently was first used in the 17th century. Some say it might have started even before that time in France. It probably would have sounded a bit different in French, of course. Something like, yesterday I got the sack. And my apologies to the French on that one. Now, why does getting the sack mean getting fired? In the old days, some tradesmen, workers with a particular skill, carried their own tools with them in a sack when they went to a new job. When a job ended or a worker got fired, he got his sack back, put his tools in it, and left. So obviously, this is a different kind of sack than the sack in the idiom hit the sack, which is a bed, as you'll recall. Now, a very similar expression with the identical meaning is get sacked. This means the same as to get the sack, so you can say Bob got the sack yesterday, or Bob got sacked yesterday. Poor Bob. His company sacked him twice. Loser. No, I don't mean that. I've been sacked a few times. Anyway, you can see that sack here is used as a verb, not a noun as in the other two idioms. The expressions I've talked about so far have pretty clear origins. There doesn't seem to be any dispute about how they began. I want to talk now about a really common idiom whose origin is debatable. You've most certainly heard this one. It's raining cats and dogs. It's been used for more than 350 years. But you've probably never thought about why cats and dogs are used to mean it's raining really heavily. There are two really interesting theories about this, one of which is pretty dark. Let's start with a happier one first. This theory states that the idiom is related to the fact that at one time homes had thatched roofs, which means soft roofs made of straw or other similar material. Straw was a pretty useful material back then. Beds and roofs. Because the roofs were soft and comfortable, animals apparently would climb up these roofs and rest there. During heavy rain, the animals would jump off the roofs or be washed off them. Makes sense, right? Sure, but it may not be right because there's another possible explanation related to the Great Plague that occurred in England in 1665. We need some scary music for this theory. Okay, now that I've set the mood, let's look at this explanation. The plague was a deadly disease that was called the Black Death because it killed tens of thousands of people. In fact, 60% of those who got the disease died. And you thought COVID was bad. In addition to killing people, the Black Death also killed a lot of animals, like cats and dogs. These animals would often die in gutters on sides of the roads. When it rained heavily, these animals would float down the streets. Ugh. So, according to that theory, that's why people started saying, it's raining cats and dogs. There are actually a few other possible explanations, but they are a bit more complicated and frankly not as interesting as these two, so I'm not going to bore you with them. Bottom line, no one really knows how it's raining cats and dogs began, so which theory do you like better, the thatched roof one or the darker one about the Black Death? I think both are quite interesting. A great conversation starter anyway, or not. So, let's recap the idioms I talked about this week. First, there was hit the sack. You can also say hit the hay. It means go to bed. Then, we looked at a different kind of sack, which is related to getting fired, as in get the sack or get sacked. We also looked at raining cats and dogs, which means, of course, it's pouring rain. Thanks for listening to my podcast, which is called If the Phrase Fits. Thanks to zapsplat.com for the sound. If you'd like to suggest an idiom, proverb, or other expression, please email me at ifthephrasefits@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.